Sweet mother of mercy, your Denver Broncos just get a massive wave of fantastic news. Our star players hopefully coming back against the Commanders. A team above us in the AFC race is dropping like flies on the offensive line. Running back who got away that Sean Payton let get away intentionally, and the Broncos have the rarest thing in sports that is going to be a talent magnet for years and years to come. If you're new to the channel, I'm a diehard Denver Broncos fan named Ben. Helps me in the algorithm out a ton. If you like the Broncos, would you smash that like and subscribe button because the bye week is gone and the playoff push has begun. Let's dive in. Sean Payton has done some miraculous things with this Denver Broncos team, and one of the most miraculous is the fact that we are on this massive win streak, and we've been doing all of that with one of our arms tied behind our back, in that Pat Surtain has been down really since the second half of that Dallas Cowboys game. We saw yesterday what the Cowboys offense can do. The fact that we basically pitched a shutout on that Cowboys offense in that second half with Pat Surtain going down with that pec strain is absolutely wild. And Pat Surtain truly dodged a massive bullet because that could have been a pectoral tear, which would have cost him the entire season. But it didn't even end up landing him on IR because exactly how our bye week landed. So that is a 4-week injury from everything that I'm looking at. And the Broncos didn't want to put him on IR because then he would also have to miss this game against the Commanders. So all signs are pointing to him being back in action for this Washington Commanders game, which is absolutely phenomenal, especially when you consider we probably are not going to be playing this top-notch quarterback who's still not as good as Bo Nix, even when healthy, in Jayden Daniels. So Jayden Daniels also coming back from an injury. He had a dislocated elbow. And the Washington Commanders at this point have all but been eliminated from the playoffs. If you look at their chances of making the first round of the playoffs even are less than 1%. And you even see across social media, all of Commanders fan base just saying, do not let Jayden Daniels come back against the best pass rushing team in the NFL, who's about to break the NFL sack record. And so according to all reports, including Adam Schefter, it is a long shot that he plays, which means that the Broncos have this chance to go into Washington playing Marcus Mariota, who scares absolutely nobody. And I just think that is just one of the luckiest breaks, because when this schedule first came out, I had that Washington Commanders game as probably a loss. Like, I saw the Commanders go in and just mollywop the Detroit Lions last year. They just have not looked like the same team. And even with a healthy Jayden Daniels, I feel fantastic about the Broncos off of a bye week, handling their business. And then you're talking, we're 10-2. We've already hit our over, and we just have so much amazing stuff in front of us. On top of that, we are seeing just how great it is that the Broncos have been relatively healthy up to the bye week. Yes, we lost J.K. Dobbins for the year up until the Super Bowl, according to Luca Evans of the Denver Post. But if you take a look across the NFL, you are just seeing guys dropping like absolute flies at the worst time. So we're seeing here that the Chiefs' offensive line really anchors around their Pro Bowl guard Trey Smith, and he is going to miss several weeks here with a upper ankle high ankle sprain. He has both a high and a low ankle sprain, which sounds absolutely excruciating. And that, just a normal high ankle sprain, you're talking 4 weeks. That's what kept Joe out all that time with the San Diego or the Los Angeles Chargers, and then eventually led to him missing the entire season. And so they'll have to be cautious with it. But if you take a look at the Chiefs' schedule, this Dallas Cowboys team is playing them on Thursday night, and they are believing in themselves after coming back on the Eagles. And so the Chiefs' schedule is not easy by any means. And if they drop 1 or 2 games, they're automatically going to be out of this thing because of the fact that they're losing tiebreakers with so many other teams. So there's a tiebreaker with the Jacksonville Jaguars that they lose. They still have games against, obviously, they have to play the Chargers again. They have to play us again. They have the Houston Texans, and that's a scary pass rush when you're missing really your best offensive lineman. So I think we're not celebrating anyone else's injuries, but we are praising the way that Sean Payton has kind of built for this, the way he handles training camp. And other than J.K. Dobbins for the season, we don't have a player who we've lost for this entire season, which is really a rarity. On top of that, we all want the Broncos to have that 1 seed. We want to have the chance at having a bye week and knowing that all we have to do is win 2 home playoff games, and we've won 10 in a row at home, and we're in the Super Bowl. Well, the team in front of us here, who we still, if we both win out, we win on tiebreakers, but still it would be amazing to get a cushion. And so what we're seeing here with the New England Patriots is that they lost half of their offensive line in 1 game, and they barely held on and beat a pretty pitiful Cincinnati Bengals team. So they lost both Campbell and their other offensive line, their other rookie offensive lineman who'd been playing fantastic. And if you take a look at their upcoming schedule, Neither of those guys were lost for the entire season, but at least a few weeks. Again, high ankle sprain for one of them, and then a sprained MCL, which is a multi-week injury for Campbell. We know that that Giants pass rush is absolutely nasty, and so Drake May is going to be running for his life. And then the Bills, that's no pushover game, and we know the Bills are going to be rip-roaring and ready to go, and it's their backs up against the wall. And then the Ravens are making a playoff push here as well, and the Jets defense is no joke either. And so I think the Broncos are going to get some cushion for that 1 seed looking ahead at these matchups, especially if the New England Patriots have a hampered offensive line. Again, not celebrating any of those guys' injuries, but just pointing out the facts that this is a good thing for the Denver Broncos, that we are getting healthy at the right time, while other teams around us who were vying for playoff spots above are getting banged up at the wrong time. Other good thing for the Broncos here is just looking ahead at our schedule. Really, it's like 3 or 4 more wins, and the Broncos all but guarantee the AFC West division. And looking here, that we're seeing that we have multiple teams who are going to be vying for the first overall draft pick. So seeing that we get to play the Raiders, they don't want to win more games. And even if Pete Carroll wants to win more games, we know that ownership knows that the best thing the Raiders can do is intentionally not win games. And then knowing, again, Washington Commanders all but eliminated. So I think this is just matching up incredibly well for your Broncos as we have 2 teams of our remaining 6 that are really on that death spiral at the bottom of your toilet. Then the Broncos handled this bye week absolutely perfect, and it's just incredible to see the maturity even of our youngest player on this team, who's Troy Franklin. And he was asked in his locker room press conference today about, like, hey, how are you guys handling this, knowing that the 1 seed is in play? And he just speaks with this incredible maturity. And so if the youngest dude on your team is talking like this, what does that say about the leadership that Sean Payton is matriculating down that thing? And he talked about, hey, once you start looking ahead, that's when you're getting trouble. So we will leave the looking ahead to all of us here in the comments. And I love the fact that the Broncos are playing where their feet are. And even to have him say that, it's important to keep where your feet are. So stay right in the present moment. And we got to go out and be 1-0 against the Washington Commanders. Also cool here to see, what did Troy Franklin spend his bye week doing? He wasn't in Vegas. He wasn't in Cancun. He was working on his body and exploring Denver. So just and seeing Bo Nix on Instagram, like getting pictures of him in an ice bath at his house. Just, I think the Broncos handled this bye week perfectly. They're healing up and they're getting their bodies back. And the Broncos have this playoff push, which is going to be phenomenal. And then we heard just an amazing interview here with Will Lutz, and could not be happier with the re-signing of Will Lutz. I did a video on that this weekend. I think he's so deserving. The most accurate field goal kicker in Broncos history, just has ice water running through his veins. And he dropped a little thing in here, and Zach Sagers did a perfect job pointing this out here. He was asked kind of what's special about the Denver Broncos, and he points to the Broncos ownership group and said the word no really isn't in their vocabulary. And all the time, we talk about talent on the field, we talk about coaching, but very rarely do you talk about ownership. And having the richest owner in sports who doesn't have no in their vocabulary absolutely makes this place a talent magnet. When I got to talk to TJ Ward, I said, is ownership even in the top 5 things you think of when you are becoming a free agent? And he said, absolutely. It's maybe the number 1 thing. And I can't help but just take a look at these pictures of where is it? Right here, I believe. I had a pic. Oh, here's the picture of the Cincinnati Bengals training field. And there's no filters. This is like a Cincinnati Bengals content creator putting these pictures out of your franchise quarterback who you can't afford to pay an offensive line, who you can't afford to pay a defense, and they are literally playing by a highway under an underpass. Alfred Williams always would talk about, like, you had to cross under the underpass to get to the practice field, and they're playing on dead field. And the Denver Broncos are switching out the turf on their stadium multiple times a year. They're building a brand new training facility. And I just think that the Walton Penner ownership group, we absolutely cannot understate the value that that is bringing to this team to just continue to attract the best talent to this team possible. And I think it's one of the rarest things in sports to have that coach ownership coordination there. And that, thank goodness, we're not playing on dead grass because we have the richest owner in sports. Amazing. And then last thing, a lot of folks were really hoping that the Broncos would go out and get Dameon Pierce from the Texans, who was cut. And then there was some rumoring on Twitter that the Broncos were trying to get him and that he instead chose the Chiefs over us, and people being really bummed out about that. But I think Benjamin Albright pointed this out perfectly here, that if the Broncos really wanted Dameon Pierce to come to the Denver Broncos, they could have signed him off of waivers rather than waiting for him to clear and become a free agent. And that's what Sean Payton would have done had he actually said, like, this is my answer to the running back position. Instead, they let him clear waivers, and then they didn't even offer him a spot on the 53-man roster. They offered him a spot on the practice squad. And so he said, well, I think my better option is to go to the Kansas City Chiefs because you got really injury-prone running backs in Kareem Hunt, who's old enough to be president of the United States, and Pacheco, who's out every other game. And so him choosing the Chiefs shouldn't be a bummer to us. It should be a good sign that he looks at the health of our running back room and says, y'all got RJ Harvey and Jaleel and Bidet. I'm never going to make the 53-man roster. And then all the stuff we talked about when we evaluated, should Dameon Pierce come to Denver? The reason he was cut in Houston is because he couldn't figure out the wide zone running scheme, which we know Sean Payton has put a ton of effort in. So just a fantastic day of news here. Bye week is over. Playoff push has begun. And y'all, we got so much to BO-Lieve in. Backspin. Come on.